Welcome back. This is Eli Stutz here, subbing in for Tamar Yona on Israel National Radio. We are very honored to have with us Edwin Black, who is a New York Times best-selling author. He's an international investigative author, award-winning author, just a very impressive resume here, author of IBM and the Holocaust, and several other investigative books. Today, we're on to ask him about the sentencing of an Iowa kosher butcher named Sholom Rubashkin. Welcome to the show, Edwin Black.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I've read the details of this case. I've been following it here in the media, as are many of our listeners. But you obviously have a little more of a deeper insight as to what's going on. And can you please tell us, first of all, what's this whole case about?
This is about a kosher slaughterhouse in Iowa by the name of Agri Processors, run by a Chabadnik by the name of Sholom Rubashkin. Mm-hmm. And this company was the target of substantial immigration enforcement standards. It was investigated by both government and non-government, PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, the immigration authorities, and ultimately the place was shut down in a massive raid by immigration authorities. Well, then they were set to prosecute the man for immigration violations, and they never did. Instead, they prosecuted him for financial crimes, which in and of themselves may seem somewhat unusual, but when juxtaposed with a proposed lifetime sentence, are called themselves to my attention. For example,
how could possibly someone go ahead
are paying his cattle bill a few days late. There's a obsolete, if not archaic, law from the 1920s called the Packers Act, in which you have to pay your cattle bill within 24 hours. And in some cases, he paid 3 or 4 days late, sometimes maybe probably a week late. Mm-hmm. And the government went to a large extent to show how much interest the suppliers lost during that time. More importantly, due to government action, his company was forced into bankruptcy. And as a result of going into bankruptcy, the line of credit that he had with his bank defaulted. Now, this bank had previously earned some $21 million in profit, but once the company was forced into bankruptcy, they lost $24 million or so. Well, all of this escalated to points which are used to assess how much damage this man Rubashkin has done to society, and therefore the federal guidelines for sentencing, and this caused a proposed life sentence for this 50-year-old man. Well, this caught my attention. Mm-hmm. The original crimes which he was accused of committing were never tried. Mm-hmm. He was given a lifetime sentence. He was given a sentence that was completely disproportionate to virtually all other criminals in his class. It's more than in many cases, it's more than a murderer. It's more than a rapist. It is disproportionate for most of the United States. It reflects the community standards of Iowa and perhaps the specific bent of the prosecutors in Iowa. This called itself to my attention. I did an investigation in the cuttingedgenews.com. Mm-hmm. It was syndicated throughout the United States. Since that time, some 6 former U.S. attorneys from Janet Reno to Ed Meese have signed an open letter to the judge stating that the sentencing is disproportionate and shocking. Many former U.S. attorneys have. Now, I did all of this in spite of the fact that piling on against this individual was very vogue in the Jewish media. So I basically had to stand alone to talk to the Jewish media, to write my articles, which were in the Jewish media and, of course, the non-Jewish media, and take a point of view which the Jewish media had basically not taken, was whether or not this is a proportionate sentence.
Now, what
That's
did you
the story
find?
in a nutshell.
What did you find in your investigation? What were your findings, basically?
I found that the original crimes for which he was accused were not tried. That's immigration. But if they had been tried, comparing them to other sentences, he would have gotten a year, 2 years, 18 months, a suspended sentence. Yet this man is being sentenced to life in prison. How is he being sentenced to life in prison? Not by sentencing him on the crimes of which he was originally accused, but by going in for financial crimes which were either engineered, manipulated, or caused by the government action itself. The man went bankrupt. He was forced into bankruptcy by government action, and as a result of that, defaulted on his line of credit. Well, that $24 million approximately default punched up his formulaic numbers on how many years he should spend in prison. Never mind the fact that he was not given credit for a $21 million profit. So by taking this approach, this very selective approach, the government in this case has sentenced the man to life in prison. And I think the entire action was green-lighted by a Jewish community, a mainstream Jewish community that did not rise to the occasion, a Jewish media that found it very, very comfortable to investigate and cast aspersions on and otherwise condemn this individual, probably because this is a subtle division within the Jewish community itself, the liberal versus the Orthodox, the Chabadnik versus the non-Chabadnik. I'm not part of any of that. I'm not a Chabadnik. Mm-hmm. I'm not a liberal Jew. I'm not a conservative Jew. I simply went on the juridicals, nor did I reinvestigate the case.
But the real question here is why? Why did the state decide to
I have an opinion, but it's only based on my historic understanding of group dynamics, if you want that.
Well, let's hear it, because, I mean, it seems like this guy is getting so much more punishment than he deserves, and the question is why? Who's going after him, and why?
There are two or three factors at play. First, I'm not going to use the word anti-Semitism. I know that's convenient. That's not the case. But I am going to use the word in-group, out-group.